So what's up guys, this is SAMSUL alumni and I'm back in, and today I'm going to talk about why I moved from Canon camera to Sony camera. There are lots of reasons for that. I was using my Canon camera for a long time, and in fact the Canon camera was the first digital camera that I had. There are lots of reasons why I moved from Canon to Sony, so I'm going to talk about those things in this video. First of all, I love Canon cameras. I literally love with the color science and their user-friendly menus. And Canon camera is so much easy to use, and there is no complicated stuff in the Canon camera. And literally anyone can use Canon camera because they made their UI so easy that everyone can use the Canon camera UI. A lot of other cameras out there like Sony, Fujifilm, Nikon, Pentax, and Panasonic. Their menu is so much complicated that if anyone new into the DSLR or mirrorless camera, they will be frustrated because the menu is so much complicated that they will never be able to use those camera. In this situation, the Canon camera is pretty much ahead because their UI is so much easy that literally everyone can use the Canon camera. So that was the main advantage of the Canon camera. Also, I bought the Canon camera because I heard that Canon camera was very good for the video. I saw lots of review in the YouTube, and finally I have decided to bought the Canon camera. So that's the reason why my first camera was Canon camera. So I was using it from 2015 and to 2019. I was using my Canon camera for 4 years, and I had a lot of ups and downs with that camera, and I really loved that camera because especially that color science. The main reason why I moved from DSLR camera to mirrorless camera and from Canon to Sony, because the size, the 4K video, the autofocus, that's it. Yeah, so main reason I moved from Canon to Sony because the Canon camera I was using, it was Canon 700D, and it was very bulky and it was very big, so it was impossible for me to move this camera, and because it was very big and it was very heavy. That's why I decided to move on the Sony mirrorless camera, because the mirrorless camera are very compact and they're very light. Those cameras are very usable in any kind of place, and they are movable, and so I can move this camera, and literally I don't have to think anything about those cameras from moving one place to another. That's the main reason I moved from DSLR camera to mirrorless camera. So now I'm going to talk about why I moved from Canon to Sony. The main reason I moved from Canon to Sony is that the autofocus. The camera I was using, Canon 700D, didn't have the good autofocus back then, but it was struggling with autofocus and it was always focus breathing. But on the other hand, in the autofocus system, Sony is far ahead of all those cameras. Though the Canon had dual pixel autofocus and it was pretty good, but I didn't go for that because Sony had a lot of autofocus system and there were a lot of autofocus method in the Sony cameras. So that's why I moved from Canon to Sony. And also that camera I was using, it had only 7 autofocus point. Can you imagine? Only 7. Though it was cross type 7 autofocus point, but it didn't work for me well. So I've decided to move from Canon camera to Sony Alpha 6000 series camera, because the 6000 series camera were pretty much compact and those cameras were very good at autofocus. In fact, current camera that I'm using, it is Sony Alpha 6500, and this camera is pretty good at autofocus. The camera currently I'm using, the Sony Alpha 6500, it has 425 autofocus point. Can you imagine? 7 autofocus point versus 425 autofocus point. Canon versus Sony. That's the main reason I moved from Canon to Sony. In fact, that's also not the main point why I moved from Canon to Sony. There is also a major main point that why I moved from Canon to Sony. Now I'm going to talk about that. I was pretty satisfied with the Canon camera. They had dual pixels autofocus camera. They had weather seal camera like Canon 70D, Canon 80D. But the one thing they were always missing, that is 4K video. Yeah, in 2018-2019, videos is all about the 4K video. Nobody wants a 1080p video. So that's why I moved from Canon to Sony. They recently launched the Canon 80D. I thought they implemented the 4K video in Canon 80D, but no, they didn't put 4K video in Canon 80D. They literally just gave the 1080p Full HD video. But recently there are also lots of other mirrorless cameras, and they are capable of 4K video, but they are not as good as Sony, because recently they have launched Canon EOS M50, which is very good camera in low budget, and it has a 4K video, but it has some kind of problem that when you do 4K video, it little bit crops into 1.5 times, and also in 4K video the dual pixel autofocus will not work, so it will have focus shifting from forward, backward, and it will focus breathe. So it was very frustrating for me. Also, Canon recently launched Canon EOS R, Canon EOS RP, and a lot of mirrorless camera, but which was very big size, and I didn't like the form factor. In fact, I'm in love with Sony a6500 because those cameras are really very light and those are very compact cameras and they are easy to carry around from here to there. And Sony Alpha 6500, it made my life so easy and I was very happy and very satisfied with this camera. So that's the main reason I moved from Canon to Sony. Let me summarize my video in some key points. So why I moved from Canon to Sony. First of all, the form factor. Second of all, the autofocus. Third of all, the 4K video. That's the main three reasons why I moved from Canon to Sony. Nothing else. I love the Canon cameras, I love their color science, I love what they are doing, but they are not for me in 2019. Especially Sony is far ahead of the Canon camera. But in color science, Canon is literally ahead of Sony. I have to admit that Canon is far ahead from Sony in terms of color science, and Sony's camera has also a pretty good standard color science, but they are not as good as Canon because Canon produces a lot of good color in their camera. But if you want to achieve good color from your footage from the Sony cameras, you have to do a lot of post-production in the post. So that's the main disadvantage of the Sony camera, but I'm pretty much satisfied with the camera because I am getting what I need and I can do some kind of post-production to achieve the filmic look. So that was not bothering me actually. So I'm in love with the Sony camera. So this is my Sony Alpha 6500. So and I'm planning to buy when the A6700 or 6800 comes. And I'm also planning to buy a second mirrorless camera which is also Sony Alpha A6500. So I'll have two cameras, both are Sony A6500. I'm happy with this camera and I'm happy with this camera's form factor, and that's it. It made my life too easy. So that's it guys. So let me know which camera you are using right now. So let me know in the comments below, and let me know also which camera should I try next, because as far I used Sony camera, I was pretty satisfied with the camera. But let me know in the comment below which camera should I use and which camera also do we use. So let me know in the comments below. So I'll see you in the next vlog. Until then, stay close to me and don't forget to subscribe. Bye bye.